Hello, and as we enter 2023, consumer behaviours are becoming more sophisticated. They're more engaged in more ways than ever before and inspired by more content on different platforms. In the face of this, is text search really the ideal solution for e-commerce? How do we help consumers find the products they're looking for and find them effectively and quickly? I'm Paul Skeldon, one of the editors at Internet Retailing and an analyst with RetailX. And I'm joined on this webinar, Future of E-commerce Search, Convert More High Intent Customers, by Vince Koh, AWS Global Head of Digital Commerce at Amazon, and Brendan O'Shaughnessy, Chief Commercial Officer at ViSenze, to find out a bit more about how we make this work in the new year ahead. So Vince, Brendan, thank you very much for joining us. Vince, obviously everyone knows about Amazon Web Services and Amazon, but tell us a little bit about what you do over there at Amazon.
Yeah, hey, thank you, Paul. Great to be here. So I'm the global lead for digital commerce at AWS, Amazon Web Services. I work with enterprise retailers and consumer brands looking for guidance and thought leadership on how to really transform their business with all the new capabilities that are happening around e-commerce, social commerce, mobile experiences, and all the emerging consumer trends out there, and help them on how to connect different dots together to create more of a unified experience for the end consumers. I joined Amazon a little less than 2 years ago, so early 2021, and it's been really fun working, not only working with a variety of retailers and consumer goods brands, but also with other business units across Amazon, such as retail, advertising, and fulfillment around the latest innovation in the digital commerce. Good to be here.
Brilliant. Really much at the center there, bringing all of it together. Be interested to hear your views on e-commerce generally and where we're going with search. Brendan, for those not familiar, what does ViSenze do?
Hey, Paul, good to be here. Hi, Vince. Well, ViSenze, we help retailers increase their revenue. That's the number one thing we do. Retailers use our search and recommendation services in their e-commerce storefronts and apps. And these AI-powered services, directly help consumers find the right product to buy faster. ViSenze started in 2012, and in that time, we've worked with and collaborated with, some of the biggest retailers, brands, and marketplaces worldwide. I'm talking about businesses like Adidas, Nike, ASOS, Gucci, Armani, Rakuten, Misho, Zalora. They're just a few who use our search or recommendation services today, and they do so because our AI works tremendously well at scale, and this platform pays for itself many times over. And that's what, I started working in retail in Ireland when I was a late teenager. I was making a point recently to my team, Paul, about why our technology does work so well. And, when I sold high-end jewelry, watches, and gifts, and, lots of expensive Waterford crystal to Irish American tourists, I learned so much about the relationship between store associates and customers, and the difference that great associates make to retailers' revenues, right? And, in many ways, that's what ViSenze is like. We're like a great sales associate. So whilst you lose that personal touch and influence in an e-com scenario, you can address it through technology. Technology that can help online consumers be inspired to buy something, or to find a product they're looking for faster, or to have the right recommended product so they can compare and make a purchase decision. Ultimately it's about closing the transaction. And we spent a decade designing, building, and testing our proprietary AI solutions. And these are solutions that are designed from the ground up by retailers for retailers. And today it's never been simpler or more affordable for retailers to adopt AI search and recommendation services, and really benefit from that revenue increase and seeing their customer loyalty and engagement grow. So that's what ViSenze do and who we do it with.
Excellent. And what an ideal time to be talking about how to leverage particularly AI to deliver that kind of thing, because we as we start a new year, the peak season is over. We've had a crazy year really in retail in 2022. I mean, thinking back to some of the things that we sort of covered on Internet Retailing, we started the year with retailers worried about overstock because there were supply chain issues at the end of 2021. And we've had the war in Ukraine, which has pushed up energy costs, which has led to inflation, and consumer confidence has taken a hit. So it's quite a tumultuous year. I think from my point of view, what we've seen is a lot of this sort of explosive growth we saw around online shopping has calmed down post-pandemic as we've sort of come out the other side of that. We appear to be back at around about 26% of sales are now online out of the total sort of retail sales, certainly here in the UK. It went up a bit in November in the run-up to Christmas with IMRG reporting that sales in November were up about 3% compared to November of last year. However, the Office of National Statistics here in the UK found that despite people buying more online, they're actually spending about 5% less than they had been before. It's also a time, I think, when online retail means something different to how it has in the past. It's not just about buying things off a website anymore. It's more of a holistic digital experience. A lot of it's mobile. Data from Data AI finds about 50% of global top 100 retailers' sales over Black Friday were actually on mobile. Some brands saw 75-80% of their sales going through mobile. Social media has totally changed how shoppers find things, recommend things, interact with brands themselves. Facebook and Instagram, for example, take around 65% of online e-commerce ad spend. That has shifted over there, which I think paints how important social media, particularly on mobile, has become in retail. And also the metaverse is starting to become something that, while most people aren't on it or doing it, it is piquing people's interest. And 77% of consumer electronics purchasers, gadget buyers, are intrigued about potentially using the metaverse to explore consumer electronics products. And 7 in 10 organizations also believe that kind of immersive experience and that kind of engagement with consumers in new ways is going to be very important this year and beyond. And I think with that in mind, this sort of holistically digital retail experience that consumers demand, and increasingly sort of businesses are looking at it too, just expose some of the shortcomings in how current e-commerce technology really works, which is what we're here to talk about today, particularly the search and discovery side of things, and how that can be evolved, I guess, away from sort of text-based, which does seem very 20th century to me, typing things in. We should be pointing our phones at stuff and finding it that way. So that's kind of my view of it, though I do sort of sit in my ivory tower looking at the world around me. You guys actually work in it. So what are you hearing from your customers out there in the market about how they shop and what they want to get from the retail experience, Vince?
Yeah, Paul, you covered so much there. Yeah, no doubt, retailers are really facing challenges and uncertainty everywhere these days around consumer spending, supply chain issue, flattening e-commerce growth, etc. The foot traffic of consumer patterns, it's very difficult to estimate, as they choose between in-person experiences and convenience of e-commerce. But the smart retailers out there that we're working with, they don't. Many of them don't operate things in channels anymore because they understand the consumers also don't think in channels. Those retailers want to stay agile and cost-effective, and continue to modernize their business model and technology. So, in terms of the what topics that we hear most frequently from our customers, I would say for the first half of 2022. Like many brands and retailers were interested in, like you mentioned, learning more about what the metaverse and NFT mean for their industry and how they should tackle the development of the technologies related to them. And they're still very important, in my opinion, long term. But with the change of economic landscape in the second half of the year, customers are shifting their focus to more tangible projects that have more immediate impact to their profit, with the goal of increasing conversion through differentiated online experiences. And given the lack of financial flexibility for many of the companies out there these days, they're looking to create more efficiency and productivity out of existing talents and assets, and they're considering solutions that don't necessarily require special expertise. So for example, we're hearing from the customers, they want to use artificial intelligence, machine learning, AI, ML. So 3D augmented reality also a part of it in a more of a meaningful and transformative way than before, to really create truly unique consumer experiences. So such as things like machine learning driven personalization, rather than the static rule-based personalization, or the 3D powered immersive retail experiences and so on.
Excellent. Yeah, I think it's interesting that a lot of these sort of really quite high-tech things are being driven by consumer demand rather than just technology companies trying to get retailers to use it. It's actually coming from the customer side. Brendan, what are you hearing from customers in the market about sort of retail?
Well, look, you both touched, I think, that on the main topics. We're hearing similar things from retailers right across the world. Over the last 6 months, we've been back out on the road. Post-COVID, we've been in everywhere from Melbourne, Mumbai, Milan, Munich, London, Luxembourg, Stockholm, Istanbul, Tel Aviv, meeting our customers, and all of them are concerned about their business outlook. Number one. It's very clear that budgets are tightening, they're lacking resources, and they're under pressure. Paul, you touched upon supply chain. I think that still is a factor for many retailers, and it's impacting their business strategy. But I think the big issue in many markets is the energy related cost of living crisis that's been building for the last year. I know in the UK, I was reading some recent reports there, we're seeing lower price retailers make, key inroads in fashion sales. And that's a sure sign that consumer spending is tightening, right? I think when it comes to technology discussions, it's really clear that, whether you're a product manager or a category manager or an e-commerce leader, there are challenges on what you can prioritize and invest in. One major retailer in London told me in October that they wouldn't be innovating as much in 2023 as much as they'd like to, but instead they'd be focused on technology that makes a difference to their top line. Just what Vince spoke about. So I think it's clear that purchasing decisions will slow down. For those that do progress, ROI will be a bigger factor, I think, than it's ever been. And I think in a perverse way, that's something this situation is something that favors businesses like ours, because, whereas 5 to 6 years ago, as an ML company, we were running a lot of experimental projects around visual AI, in particular with innovation teams. Whereas today, we're delivering proven revenue increasing solutions with P&L teams. So there's been that big shift in terms of the experimentation stage, the innovation stage, now the adoption and impact stage, and that's where we're at. And I think in a market where consumer spend is tightening, every dollar counts, and for retailers, capturing those dollars and finding ways to capture more of those dollars is becoming more and more critical. But still, there are not everywhere is equal, right? And there are still different dynamics in play, I think, and that leads to different considerations and priorities as well. So, when we look at the last probably 12 to 18 months, we've seen in Western economies, in Europe and the US, we've seen great growth in the adoption of our smart recommendations, right? And these are AI recommendations. Vince touched upon the old rules-based logic, which, has inherent limitations in terms of how well it works. But brands, with our smart recommendations, we're finding brands like, iBuyDirect, Armani, Showpo, ASOS, John Lewis, they're all banking additional revenue with our, buy to look or visually similar recommendation modules. Whereas in Japan, we're seeing growing interest in multimodal search. So image search isn't a big consumer or well adopted consumer experience in Japan to date, but we're seeing growing interest in multimodal search, so a multifaceted search model that goes beyond text and brings together voice search, text search, visual search, video search that can work seamlessly together across all media types, and which promises to deliver the ability to search as we think. Still very much a future promise. There's a lot of work going on. We'll maybe talk about that in a while. But then you got markets like India, where, honestly, visual search in India is on the rise, probably like nowhere else today. we've seen our business expand substantially over the last 2 to 3 years, where we now have 4 of the top 5 retailers in India now, using our visual search. And in that market, unlike other markets, it's not uncommon to see, adoption rates of 10 to 15%. And, it's actually such a popular feature that it's used to promote the major shopping apps during, primetime TV ads. So overall, India is an interesting market because, it has such high potential, right? The rate of growth is phenomenal. And I think we're all of the belief that it will become the largest e-commerce market in the world in future years. And we certainly want to be a part of helping retailers there continue to grow market share and revenue. And that's really our focus. But I think overall, you touched upon it around text search, right? And the fact that we're still typing words in to find products. I think one thing that come up in all the conversations we've had over the last 6 months in particular, regardless of market that we've visited, is the common interest in evolving and improving e-commerce search. I think, current solutions in many cases are hitting the wall in terms of effectiveness. And as we have some big plans with search in 2023 that I'm sure we'll talk about. It's been an exciting time in many ways to spend time with our customers and get their input on what we've been working on and share that and get their feedback in terms of their priorities and outlook. But it's big challenges are retail spend tightening, and the key focus I think is technology that can make a difference, and technology that can make a difference to top line capturing.
No, absolutely. I think it is one of the sort of upsides of the technology side of retail is that sort of like you say, they want an immediate and definitive ROI, but they also want to find technology that will lend efficiency, because retailers too are facing energy costs. Every cost is rising. Anything they can do using technology to drive efficiency of every facet of what they do is very much top of their agenda, I think, which is great in terms of a sort of technology investment, even though we're in quite sort of difficult times. I think from a sort of customer side as well, like product discovery and engagement are going to be more critical, aren't they? Because you want people to find your stuff and buy your things rather than your competitors. So again, there's this huge competitive advantage to having technology to do it. So I think, it's a great time for technological investment. It's interesting because as we face sort of potentially a recession, we are looking at maybe seeing more spend on things that were once considered sort of slightly more fanciful, like AI and machine learning and virtual reality and all those sorts of things are actually going to become things that sort of perhaps are what save some retailers. I mean, Vince, from your point of view, what are some of your Amazon customers' priorities that you've discovered around this? Are they wanting these things as well?
Yeah, I mean, more broadly speaking, digital commerce modernization is the highest priority for most of our customers. So it's nearly impossible to stay relevant these days as a business with more of an all-in-one type of monolithic platforms out there, because it makes the business that much more difficult to differentiate and sluggish for consumers. And it's slow to iterate on, expand to the new market, and it's also very expensive to update and operate. So we've kind of observed that rising trend from our customers to leave these legacy products behind to adopt a more modular, composable approach to gain access to more of a best-in-breed capabilities from different types of technology vendors out there, instead of a single vendor doing everything. And one of the core capabilities is a search, which is directly tied to the retailer's conversion, right? So, it's always, we're seeing, especially second part of 2022, we see that it's obviously top of the priority short term, but also it's one of the top priorities for long term as well. So I've met with the major retailers in the US, Europe, Asia, Latin America, all in Q4 2022 about their on-site search experience. And the discussion was around how they can really provide a fast and relevant product search, crossed with the business tooling they have to orchestrate the, more of a personalized shopping experiences and machine learning to provide the automation. And it's about trying to stay away from the human involvement and making it much more data-driven. And retailers and direct-to-consumer brands out there really want to use their customer data to hyper-personalize their search results, recommendations, and every interactions across web, mobile, email, or ads. So yeah, optimizing their search experience has been top of their mind. And I think although the steep increase in the digital share of total retail has kind of leveled off in 2022, clearly there is an elevated role of digital commerce, like you mentioned, Paul, earlier. So much more than a sales channel since the pandemic. Last time I checked on some of the research reports, 65% of the consumers, that's like 2 out of 3 people, research your product online before they actually go into the physical store. Meaning that digital experiences play a significant role even in the physical store activities. So we've been working with our customers on how to make sure every consumer touch points are well synced together, so that seamlessness can be a competitive advantage they have over their other retailers.
Interesting. So Brendan, sort of drilling a bit deeper into the sort of search element of the things that sort of Vince brings up and that we've been discussing so far. Where is search going then? There's clearly this need for better ways to discover and find and even sort of share what you're looking for. What sort of things are out there for retailers? What should the retailers watching this webinar be Googling? What should they be looking for to as the technologies and strategies to enhance their search?
Yeah, look, I think you sort of got to come back to the problem that's there today. I think there are clear challenges. I think with in many cases, and some retailers have awesome digital experiences, right? So this is not even across the board, but there are many millions of retailers out there and e-commerce sites today out there where there are quite a few challenges with traditional search and discovery tools. I think from an on-site tech search point of view, it's table stakes, right? But it's old technology. It's an important source of revenue for retailers, and clearly for most retailers, it's a considerable percentage of their sales comes from search users. But to be honest, too often the search experience that I frequently see and many of us see is underwhelming. And some of that might be due to poor merchandising, or duplicate listings on marketplaces, or poor search engine technology, or even and what's quite often the case, a lack of good searchable attribute data, right, for products. But for a technology designed to help a consumer with shopping intent to find the right product, it needs significant improvement on too many commerce sites or e-commerce sites. And I think it's also true for recommendations. Another key and effective discovery feature is product recommendations. When you get this right, about it, such as the difference it can make to your revenue. But in some ways, I think recommendations are one of the most underappreciated tools a retailer has. And I think a reason for this is that there are just too many poor recommendation engines out there that are just ineffective and not capable or designed to tap into a customer's purchase intent or their shown interest in specific products when they're browsing or searching. And I think the way I look at it is it's almost I keep coming back to that in-store experience that as a consumer we've grown up with, compared to the e-commerce experience, the online experience, which we sometimes have to put up with because it's not optimal. And I loved Vince's stats there about 60+% of or I think Paul, you mentioned the high percentage of mobile purchasing, right, in recent sales. I'm not of a mobile first generation, but still I'll go to the mobile first to try to buy something. But what I constantly find is the experience is just too weak that I'm back on the desktop because it's suboptimal. And I think for retailers, I think it really is coming back to what kind of experience do you expect your consumers to have? Now imagine, let's sort of bring it back to the sort of that physical e-commerce comparison. Imagine you're out on a Saturday afternoon, you walked into a store looking for a specific product. You know what you're looking for, and you walk into a store you think has it. And you go and ask a sales associate there and ask them, do they have it in stock? Okay, well, in the real world, if the associate shrugged and waved at, across the store and said, well, I don't know, why don't you browse until you find it? You'd be appalled, right? We wouldn't put up with it. It's a really poor customer experience, and we'd be out the door faster than we came in. But that's exactly what a poor online search experience gives you. It's a reason to leave and go somewhere else. And, when I talk about recommendations being important, I really do believe they are. And when you think about the logic that underpins many product recommendations today in an online world, and translate that into, what a physical experience might be, can you imagine you're in a changing room trying on some items, and the associate who assisted you recommended a few items that clearly aren't to your taste, not relevant to what you've chosen to try on at that point, but they're recommending them because someone else last month bought what you're trying on and also bought something else. I mean, again, there's no relevancy there, contextual link. You wouldn't be too impressed. But that's what rules-based older recommendation engines that don't consider their customer, don't consider the signaled intent at that time, or recommendation engines which they're not really delivering alternative products that help a shopper make a choice. When I worked in retail, it was clear that shoppers need choices to make a purchase decision. We all do. We don't buy the first thing that we see. And that's what great recommendations does. It gives the customer good choice to make a decision. It should be about a funnel to make that transaction and close that. We have to put up with these sort of weaker experiences online because, again, it comes back to technology. A lot of this technology is old, and it's basically, rule-based. It's not AI based, it's not ML based, and it's no longer, I think, fit for purposes. So I think retail is the first thing I would say is consider that connection between the physical retail world and e-commerce experience. And to Vince's point, they're not separate. And as a consumer, you have the same emotions when you shop in both environments. And for retailers trying to serve that, I think it's really important that they begin to focus on that and understand what kind of physical real world experience you want to deliver customers, and how do you translate that? What's the equivalent of that online, and pursue that goal? And I think there's a lot that is happening that can help retailers do that. I think in terms of, search, going from text search to visual search, and visual search has been around for some time. But I think it's, the next promise of search really is around, this promise of being able to search as you think. All right. It's not just about, visual. It's not just about text. It's not just about voice. It's about how do you bring those elements together? All right. How do you bring those elements together and really deliver an experience that just helps the consumer find the right product, and whether that's, speaking into their phone, or sharing an image, or uploading an image that's been shared with them for a product that they love, or doing a price comparison, or adding to a brand's name to a search that helps them narrow in on some of the capabilities or some of the products that they're looking for. So I think that's how the challenge with online product discovery should be tackled. It's that relevancy to the consumer at the heart. What experience you want to deliver to the consumer, and how do you make it easy for us to find those products from the array of products that you have? And I think traditionally, I think the days of old search technology, and it's definitely old technology, the days of that prevailing and retailers being too slow to adapt and consumers putting up with it, I think that's changing. And I think the technology landscape is changing, certainly. New players coming in with new search paradigms, I think that will gain traction over the next 1 to 3 years. But also, as we said, the business environment will force retailers to adapt, because those who don't adapt fast enough will die. And that's the challenge you're facing. And as consumers, I think we stand to benefit from that over the next period of time.
Great. And Vince, does that chime with Amazon's approach to search in retail?
So on our digital commerce side for AWS, I'll speak about AWS first. So, our top level goal for solutions is to provide 100% coverage of retail and consumer product use cases. And that means if a retailer, in our case, wanted to run their entire business on AWS, they could do that. So the solution building approach will start with working backwards with our customers' internal team to understand their priority use cases, organized by both business side and technical sides. On our side for search, obviously we do have Amazon Open Search service, but we also have Amazon Personalized, which was built in 2019. It's an AI-driven recommendation service built with same ML tech used by Amazon.com, and that basically tailors the content by capturing the specific data points and creating the highly customized sales funnel for every user. So the intent is always to create a great buying experience by integrating personalized recommendation, but it also caters to omnichannel retailers by developing highly relevant content for mobile apps, websites, and emails that suggest the products and display the very much of a tailored and customized search results and send the personalized notification to the customers. So we are addressing this with the service, which is a fully managed service in the cloud that includes ML models, data processing, and algorithms, and make it accessible through our cloud platform, AWS. But obviously, the big part of what we offer to our customers is partners like ViSenze and many others, that has a very specialized skills in the search space, and that's how we are approaching it. And the way we're thinking about is, there are 4 different types of solution responses that address each of the use cases that we have in the retail space. So one is the AWS service, which is mostly purpose-built cloud products, very low-level service. And then we do also have like engineered solutions that are more of a ready-to-deploy solutions, assembled with mostly AWS services with code and configuration into more of a software products that any retailer can use, knowing that we are behind the quality and security. And then the partner solutions, which is probably 70 to 80% of what we offer as a solution. A lot of software companies, SaaS players, and managed service from our partners. And then we also offer guidance, which are mostly referenced architecture and technical contents. I would say search is one of the most important use cases for AWS retail team, because that's what our customers expect from us, because we're part of Amazon and rely on our solution expertise. So they all want to improve how search function on their own properties. And whether it's collaborating with our own open search team or Alexa team, or working with our partners in this space, we're going to continue to continue our efforts on our search as a solution. And we do have customers coming to us asking for different things within search, and we look forward to turning those insights that we are gathering from our customers and turning them into exciting solution in 2023, whether it's text-based or visuals or voice, making them accessible to our customer in our solution library.
Excellent, I see. So, Brendan, what's the sort of likely sort of roadmap to delivering this? I mean, it's all. I look forward to the day I can point my phone at something and actually say to it, "I want some like that, but in blue." To combine visual and voice search equally, I want it to work seamlessly. How do retailers get there? What's it? How's this likely to play out? What's the roadmap?
Yeah, so I think the journey is underway, and you may have heard murmurings about vector search and multimodality search. I spoke earlier about the interest of that in Japan and other markets, and it sounds very idealistic. But in reality, there is work being done to transform the underlying search architectures from just being text and a 25-year-old keyword matching technology at that, and the ability to bring them together. If you look at visual search implementations, you'll often access it from a camera icon that's in or next to the search bar, the text bar. And that search bar might also have a microphone icon for voice search as well. But each of those searches today operate independently. They're single modal, and they all operate independently from each other. But I think, we're seeing, we're engaged in this as well. We're seeing development. I think it's early stage. We're seeing development around bringing those elements together and delivering a more comprehensive integrated search capability. Probably the most visible one for consumers out there, and I guess retailers as well, would be what Google are doing with their search, and that's being able to combine text and visual search in a mobile consumer search experience, and that's aligned to to our strategy as well. And it's something that we've been working with AWS on. Vince talked about open search. So we're, one of the things we're doing is expanding our search offering this year from visual search only to delivering a search platform that offers data enriched text search engine. So we're using our AI product tagging capability to enrich our customers' data, number one. So we enhance and augment the data that they have that makes those products searchable, integrating text and a visual search capability. And the key difference, I guess, from someone like us and Google, and there are many, is we're not marketing to consumers, but we're marketing to retailers who can integrate, configure, and deploy this advanced search experience as a SaaS service. We talked earlier about resources being limited, budgets being tight. Our job as a business is to do the heavy lifting on the technology side, and if you like, abstract the complexity of AI and ML and make it really simple and easy for our customers, who are retailers, brands, and marketplaces, to adopt it into their experience, right? To deliver that better consumer experience to their digital platforms. So I think, the overall journey, to your point about, being able to, point at something and combine all of those elements, I think it's a little way away, but work is ongoing, and I think what we're going to see is iterative steps to reach that outcome. And for us, we're looking at announcing the launch of an integrated search and visual capability this quarter. So we'll be talking a bit about that at NRF this week.
Great stuff. So what does this mean sort of for consumers, firstly, and sort of secondly for retailers? Well, what's this going to deliver for them, Vince?
So, I mean, from Amazon's point of view, we're always kind of customer obsessed. So it's about putting the customer at the center of every decision making, instead of organizing around features or cool products that we're thinking of. So it is always a part of Amazon's core principles that guide us into delivering on our mission. So that means we always start with the customer and work backwards whenever we are innovating and building on their behalf. In our case at AWS, so I mean, the customer doesn't always mean someone who shops on Amazon.com. Customer can be a business that uses Amazon Web Services for a software development engineer. Customer can be an internal team at Amazon. But what we do is, we first listen to our customers and understand their perspective, and then we kind of synthesize those information and customer data into trends and figure out what are the key problems that we need to solve, and then we go into the kind of think big and get creative mode for the solutions that can address those problems. And and then once we have those solution in mind, we start writing documents with a whole bunch of detailed information. And during Q4 last year, as I was meeting with a bunch of different retailers globally, I was able to kind of find the similar trends across many different major retailers, what they're looking to achieve on the search side. Obviously some are more of a SaaS users, some are more of a fan of open source products, but they all want to make it more friendly to not only tech users and the business users, but also making sure at the end, making sure it's addressing and improving the customer experience. So it's all about being the customer centric.
I see. And Brendan, what is in it for customers and retailers?
And what we're looking to do is use the underlying AI technology to bring that intent to bear and get you to a product results that are faster. So in this case, the simple dress search is going to deliver you a wide range of results. What our classification engine is able to do is give you an option to sort of narrow in on that and focus on specific types of dresses that may match your intent and get you to those products faster. So that's number one. I think the other aspect is around the experience, all right? And the experience of shoppers and digitally online is changing. So, for us, and again, this is about making it easier for retailers to launch a better search and recommendation, or better search and discovery experience. So for us, it's about doing the heavy lift. That means not just taking care of the underlying technology that's behind the scenes, but also delivering great user experiences that will engage consumers and help retailers to make more money faster. So here on screen is a more TikTok style, visual browsing experience that's driven from search results. So moving from that sort of typical PLP landing page approach to something that's much more visual and immersive. A lot of our retailers have fantastic product imagery, but oftentimes they're still locked into this sort of grid browsing structure. We want to break out of that, and we think it's beneficial for retailers if we can deliver to consumers experiences that are more inspirational, more engaging, and help them really see those products and find those products that they're looking for more easily. And I think in terms of the visual search piece, we're also looking at ways to enhance that with, again, the core capabilities that exist today, whether that's attribute, auto attribution creation, or keyword mapping. So, for us, visual search is about, a faster way to find those products, but there are still ways we can optimize that. And what we're looking at bringing in here, what's on screen right now, is the ability to use attributes and keyword search to narrow down the search results from an image search and really help consumers land on those products that are of keen interest to them. So I think, we're excited about this. We'll talk more about this at NRF this week. But I think, for us, it's the first stage of being able to bring text and image search and visual with image keywords into a more integrated off-the-shelf capability for retailers to adopt. And we believe that's going to deliver a stronger outcome for their business, because it's going to engage their consumers and it's going to deliver that better product finding outcome that consumers are looking for. And I think, over time, we see that as then the next stage of that evolution being integrating the recommendation capabilities that we have, our buy to look, our shop to look, our form of personalized recommendations into that sort of search and browsing of results experience. So ultimately, we see it as a more integrated experience that for consumer, it's seamless. They don't think about it from a search and a recommendation point of view, but oftentimes these technologies at a retailer side are independent. They operate, almost on a standalone basis. And we see greater benefit if we can help bring those elements together into a more seamless experience and deliver a better customer journey for consumers. We think that's going to benefit them, and ultimately that's going to benefit our retail customers.
And it looks really good as well. It's a it's a much needed sort of refresh, I think, of how the sort of web experience looks and feels for consumers, which having spent the last sort of 2 months immersed in trying to explore the metaverse from a retail point of view, while the graphics are terrible, it does change your kind of view of how the internet looks on your computer screen. And I do find that sort of the old style internet that we're all used to does look a bit flat. And I think sort of looking at what you've done there in your sort of collaboration between the two of you and your open search and ViSenze sort of platform, it is a much needed sort of, it's not sort of maybe 3D immersive, but it is a much more immersive and engaging way of doing it, which I think is what people are crying out for. So it's been really useful to see and hear all that. I think there's a lot more we can probably say about how this is all evolving. But I think sort of to draw things to a close a bit, it would be nice to sort of wrap up with how you see this sort of playing out in the coming few months. So, Vince, what sort of trends are you expecting sort of around this and the wider sort of e-commerce play through 2023?
Yeah, before I get into that, I was looking at the slides as well. Yeah, I mean, I work with the open search team quite a bit with our customers. That we're super excited about this collaboration between, scalability of the open search and ViSenze, the leading product discovery platforms for the many retailers that we have. Speaking of trends for 2023, I expect, the role of digital commerce will continue to expand beyond the sales channel. Like we mentioned, it's being used as more of a discovery tools or search tool. A lot of people are using it different ways, and being able to adopt those consumer behavior will be key for many of the retailers. I do expect that personalization will take even further steps in terms of its progress with all the exciting new development in the artificial intelligence and machine learning space, training recommendation models and filtering capabilities, etc. And every touch point is personal these days, right? So it's no longer a nice to have feature, it's a must have for every retailer out there. And lastly, I'm excited about the potential of spatial computing and 3D for retail, and more of a next generation of immersive retail. And our CTO also mentioned it last month on his newsletter, but I couldn't agree more with his prediction, which was creating the 3D models of nearly any environment or object are becoming so easy and cheap as well. So it will change how we consume social media. It will change how we consume content, e-commerce product engagement on many of our sites, and even being able to simulate some of the things in your own space. So I think it's something that I'm looking forward to.
Couldn't agree more. I think, yes, that move to sort of a 3D and 3D-like, even if it's on a 2D screen experience, is going to be a really big deal in retail. But like you say, it's across social media and the internet completely. Brendan, what are your sort of views on 2023? I know you're doing a tech talk at NRF. I guess you're going to touch on some of those things there. What other great things do you think we can look forward to?
We'll be at the AWS booth on January 16th, talking a bit about how personalization and visual search and search in general can increase revenue. Look, I think we talked earlier about the challenges in the industry. I think they're going to evolve. We'll see how 2023 pans out, but I do think for us, the conversations we're having with retailers is very much around better search and discovery, but in a way that can increase revenue, and personalization absolutely has a part to play in that. 3D data, third-party data, is going to disappear. It's going to transform the experience and the landscape for both consumers and businesses. And we're looking at ways where our personalized recommendations, which doesn't require any historical click data, but delivers significant uplift in session results when retailers put it in front of consumers. We see more. We're expecting more adoption of that in 2023, and again, just that tighter integration of search and recommendations with a focus on delivering a better, more seamless product discovery experience for consumers online.
Excellent. Well, it's a lot of exciting things to look forward to. As I said at the top of the webinar, consumer expectations of their shopping experience, both online and off, has changed dramatically. How they use technology has changed dramatically, and equally, I think retailers do need to invest in these things because it makes it more efficient, more engaging, and hopefully delivers rapid ROI, particularly in these difficult times. So Vince, Brendan, thank you very much for taking the time to talk through all of that. There's a lot more I think we could discuss about this. I'm hoping we'll see a lot more of these sort of developments through the year. But thank you both for joining us. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and wisdom, and we look forward to hearing more from you again soon. So thanks for watching, and thanks for taking part. See you soon.